In a country plagued by scandal and controversy, there's a man who claims to be a fearless crusader, exposing government rot and corruption. Machesetsa Mofomobe. But is his relentless crusade a genuine fight for Lesotho's future, or just another act in a high-stakes game of power and political survival? Today we ask a very uncomfortable question. Is Machesetsa Mofomobe truly exposing corruption, or is he exploiting it for his own personal gain? I'm your host, Tladi Pilibita, and welcome to In Perspective, where every issue deserves a closer look. Machesetsa Mofomobe did not merely enter Lesotho's political landscape. Rather, he forcefully navigated his way into it. With a strong inclination for public denunciations and a flair for courtroom spectacle, he pledged to expose corruption with the passion of a determined crusader. He's been called many things, including fearless, outspoken, and a critic of the established order. However, he has also been labeled as divisive, reckless, and at times downright destabilizing. Lesotho's political history is littered with leaders who promised unity but delivered factionalism. Machesetsa fits neatly into this tradition, not as a unifier but as a master of disruption. He has taken to accuse ministers of self-enrichment, security agencies of sabotage, and even the Prime Minister of being an accomplice in corruption scandals. His message is straightforward. No individual is exempt from scrutiny. His method? Public reforms, social media storms, and a persistent pattern of no-confidence motions, an ongoing political drama that shows no end to sight. Anti-corruption activism is, of course, a noble pursuit. But when allegation is hurled like a grenade and every accusation lacks follow-through, the line between vigilance and vendetta becomes a blur. Machesetsa's critics argue that his crusade often serves less to cleanse and more to confuse and sow chaos. I mean, consider the pattern. A tender contract inflates from 50 million rand to 184 million rand. And Machesetsa is quick to shout, "Corruption!" A journalist is murdered and he points fingers at the National Security Service without presenting conclusive evidence. A senior official is filmed counting money and suddenly Machesetsa's Facebook page is ablaze with claims of graft and corruption, triggering a 3 million rand defamation lawsuit. The result, regrettably, did not bring clarity or any justice. Instead, it cast a pervasive shadow of suspicion over the nation. Lesotho's institutions, already fragile, find themselves caught in the crossfire of accusations and counter-accusations. And what about us, the people? We are left to wonder whether leaders are combating corruption or just merely vying for power. To better understand Machesetsa's brand of populism, it helps to draw a parallel between him and South Africa's Julius Malema. Both men wear populism like a badge of honor, asserting their commitment to representing the common people against corrupt political elites. But while Malema's EFF has grown into a disciplined, ideologically driven movement with clear policy goals, land reform, nationalism, and economic justice, Machesetsa's BNP remains a fragmented force, more known for its internal squabbles than any coherent policy. Malema's populism is proactive, mobilizing millions with fiery speeches and radical proposals. But Machesetsa's, by contrast, is reactive and accusatory and more about tearing down than building up. Where Malema channels anger into organized political power, Machesetsa seems content to fan the flames of mistrust and division. And let's not forget what happened on the international stage. Machesetsa has resorted to writing letters to foreign officials expressing concerns about Lesotho's transparency in trade negotiations. Because nothing says national pride like hanging your country's dirty laundry in Washington. Malema, meanwhile, rallies pan-African solidarity and anti-imperialist sentiment, appealing to a broader continental vision. Under Machesetsa's leadership, the BNP's fortunes have hardly improved. 2 seats in a 120-member parliament hardly constitutes a political comeback. Internal divisions persist and the party's message struggles to resonate beyond fiery headlines. Meanwhile, Lesotho's democratic institutions, already stretched thin, have become arenas of conflict. The DCEO and the National Security Service, the courts, each of them caught in the crossfire of Machesetsa's relentless accusations. And the public? Many Basotho have grown weary of the endless political drama. They watch as leaders engage in verbal sparring and lawsuits while the country's pressing matters like unemployment, poverty, infrastructure remains unresolved. If this tale sounds all too familiar, it's because it is. Lesotho has long been caught in a cycle of hope followed by disappointment. Leaders emerge, promising change, but only to become part of the problem. Movement starts with bold declarations, only to degenerate into factionalism. Machesetsa's story fits this pattern perfectly, a symptom of a political culture that rewards spectacle over substance and division over dialogue. 3 years into his leadership, Machesetsa's legacy is clear. A party isolated and a government paralyzed by mistrust and a people increasingly disillusioned. The uncomfortable truth is that Machesetsa's politics may be less about reform and more about his own political survival. So, who is Machesetsa Mofomobe? A fearless crusader against corruption, or a master of division cloaked in the language of reform? But maybe perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between. What is certain is that Lesotho stands at the crossroads, faced with a choice: continue down a path of degeneration or seek politics that unite us instead of dividing us. This is In Perspective, where every issue deserves a closer look. Stay curious, stay engaged, and stay hopeful. Remember to subscribe, like, and share this video to keep the conversation going.